After Mason Graham, WalterNolen and Kenneth Grant are the clear number 1 and 2 defensive tackles, but many disagree on who's better. WalterNolen is an elite athlete who's incredibly strong and can play anywhere on the defensive line from 0 to 5 technique. Nolen uses his elite speed and power for his size to consistently beat any offensive lineman and get either a sack or tackle for loss. Kenneth Grant, while not as versatile, is a monster of an athlete in his own right. He weighs 340 pounds and has all the power that comes with that while keeping the speed of someone 50 pounds lighter. His elite first step along with his size allow him to get face to face with the quarterback in the blink of an eye, and I promise you there is no human alive who wants to be in a one-on-one against Kenneth Grant. To start with run defending, because that's where both of these guys excel, Kenneth Grant is just a human you want on the field every time a run play is happening. If he's out there, you have to design plays around him because even as a first-year NFL player, he's already going to be one of the strongest defensive linemen on the field. And I wouldn't trust most centers to push this guy backwards to open that A-gap. He anchors so well to the ground, sometimes on film, he just looks like a wall because the defense will try to send 2 linemen at Grant and he just won't budge. Now, Kenneth Grant might be the best run defender in this draft, but that's not to say WalterNolen's a bad run defender, because that would be a blatant lie. This guy is so explosive off the line, offensive linemen just couldn't stop him, and when he got into the backfield, it was almost like this guy had glue on his hands, because it was impossible to break out of one of his tackles. He sheds blocks so well that teams just started doubling him to stop him from penetrating into their backfield, and even that didn't work, because WalterNolen, similarly to Kenneth Grant, anchors so well. Nolen played great despite teams trying their hardest to scheme against him, and that was seen in his game against Florida, where he had 3 tackles for loss and a sack. And to talk about his pass rush ability, WalterNolen was a star there too, because in his 1 year at Ole Miss, he had 34 pressures and 6.5 sacks in 12 games. If you compare his pressures to the Defensive Rookie of the Year and generational rookie edge Jared Verse, in their last 11 regular season games, Jared Verse only had 5 more pressures than him. And keep in mind, Jared Verse is an edge rusher. Nolen's presence also made his teammates play significantly better at Ole Miss and set new team records for most sacks and tackles for loss in a season, accumulating 52 sacks and 120 tackles for loss. WalterNolen's quick hands make his pass rush moves so clean, and when combined with his ability to just bull rush offensive linemen, I really can't blame anyone for getting beat by this guy. Now, Kenneth Grant mainly shines as a run defender, but he also has shown great flashes in the passing game. He's developed a really nice pass rush repertoire, consistently utilizing spin, rip, club, and swim moves. Obviously though, he doesn't really have to rely on his pass rush moves being as elite, because with as elite of a first step as he has, and as strong as he is, his bull rush is unguardable. An underrated part of any defensive lineman's game is the ability to read the quarterback and bat down passes, which is something Kenneth Grant is absolutely elite at. He set the record for most pass breakups by a defensive lineman in Michigan football history throughout his career. And that's something you really want to see out of a defensive tackle who doesn't get very many sacks, because pass breakups are just as good of a way to break up a play. Now, to get into more of the MISC stuff that doesn't fall under pass rush or run defending, Kenneth Grant always maintains such insane leverage and pad level, making him even harder to push back. Despite being 340 pounds, he always stays low, allowing him to win the leverage battle against bigger offensive linemen. And keep in mind, the smaller offensive linemen usually aren't strong enough to keep up with him. Grant also has an elite ability to recognize blocking, schemes, and react accordingly. He doesn't just blow up plays with brute strength, instead understanding when to control his man and when to penetrate into the backfield and collapse the pocket. This, combined with his elite ability to diagnose zone blocking schemes and take away cutback lanes, makes him one of the greatest run defending prospects I've ever seen. At the start of the video, when I said he's way too quick for someone his size, I didn't just mean in a straight line. His lateral movement ability is shocking. allowing him to make plays outside of his gap he really shouldn't be making as a nose tackle. Finally, his stamina for a 340-pound man is absurd. He plays a ton of snaps and his motor runs hot through all of them, never seeing a dip towards the end of the game. Now, let's talk about WalterNolen. His burst off the line is elite, but what sets him apart is how quickly he can change direction. Many defensive linemen with as good of a first step as him struggle to redirect once they've engaged, but Nolen's agility allows him to change direction on a dime, making him just as dangerous on second effort plays. His lateral quickness also makes him highly effective on stunts and twists. One underrated aspect of Nolen's game is his ability to chase plays outside his immediate gap. He has the speed and effort to pursue running backs down the line of scrimmage or track down scrambling quarterbacks. This makes him a rare defensive tackle who can contribute to plays that stretch outside the tackle box. To start with the NFL Pro Comps, I think WalterNolen is most like Chris Jones. Both Chris Jones and Nolen have an incredibly unique combination of explosiveness, power, and versatility. They can play along the entire defensive line and impact the pass and run game with their quick first step and great hand usage. KennethGrant is a slightly different player and is most like Dexter Lawrence. While Grant won't have the immediate pass rush upside of Lawrence because no one besides Dexter Lawrence does, they will both share their incredible power and athleticism. Both players are dominant run defenders who can beat double teams and shut down entire sides of an offensive line by themselves. They thrive off of being incredibly explosive and using their quick first step to penetrate the O-line. This, in combination with their lateral movement abilities, separates them both from traditional nose tackles. I could see both the Seahawks and Bengals being very interested in these two guys. Both teams struggled immensely against the run, and that forced them to bring more bodies inside, which opened up the opposing team's passing game. Both these teams run a 3-4, and to be honest, I think you can slide either of these guys anywhere along the defensive line, and with their athleticism, they'd be fine. Many other teams are going to be interested in WalterNolen and KennethGrant, and it wouldn't surprise me if one of these guys snuck their way into the top 10. Thanks for watching, leave recommendations for any other prospects below, and like and subscribe.